everyone. Welcome to Role Model Rebels. Today we have a fantastic guest with us today. Her name is Tracy Greenan, and she's the founder of Aura and Gamers Over Guns. She's also the co-founder of Fashion Entertainment Television Hub and Game Changing Style. Hi, Tracy. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Anup. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, we are very proud and very excited to have you as our role model rebel. So I'll just get into the questions that we have for you today. Through our chat, we've spoken about how identity and personal history is so important to you. Can you share how your background and your experiences have shaped who you are today? And how that kind of identity and storytelling has become a medium and clothing has become a medium for clothing and language for you today and also in your fashion journey.
A great question. It has definitely my early beginnings has definitely shaped my career into how I am today and how I want to be in the future. I grew up in a very small, isolated northern town in Canada, British Columbia. I am the child of a mixed race. I'm a mixed race child of immigrants. My mother is from a place called Zamboanga, which is the Muslim side of the Philippines, and my father is from Belfast in Northern Ireland. So both of those areas is or it was it had a lot of extreme religious conflict. And growing up, I remember we would get these telegrams at home, and I always dreaded those telegrams because it usually meant somebody was uh, stabbed, a bomb went off in one of my relatives' houses, just hunger strikes going on, just a lot of really like scary things were happening as a child. And so that was going on in my life. But then also, I remember when I was about 8 years old, I just thought I was a normal kid, just like any other kids. And it wasn't really until these boys started throwing rocks at me and calling me derogatory names for a refugee that I was questioning what's wrong with me. And they would pull back their eyes and they'd make comments about me, how I look different, how I have like my skin was different, and I felt really bad about myself. I didn't realize there was something wrong with me. And so I didn't know how to react to that. I had an enormous amount of sadness and disappointment and anger. And what I started to do was I started to use clothing as a way to respond to that kind of racism. And so clothing was my way of saying, yes, you're right. I am not like you, and I don't want to be you. I am an individual. And so clothing became a way of, became my psychological armor. And so I started dressing different, and I wanted to dress like an individual. I wanted to be original. I didn't want to be like anybody else. And to this day, that has shaped me. I remember just I wanted to go into fashion and learn more about it, and building on my journey to be different, because I know other people wanted to express themselves. They wanted to have their own unique identity. And I felt that there was a connection there, and I wanted to help others claim their identity. So that's how that shaped me in my journey. And that has become my medium for personal expression, and empowering people to embrace their differences and embrace their identity, because being different is a good thing.
This is so commendable, Tracy, to actually understand, how identity can become a powerful tool, because when we are children, to have such emotions and to actually make a more productive outcome, it's not easy, because as children we are vulnerable, and however I feel times change us, and you should be so proud of yourself that you've used those experiences, and I'm sure it wasn't it was very difficult to actually see the light, you know and actually be a story that can inspire other people who are in this situation, because unfortunately, this is a situation that still exists today. And I'm really glad that you're sharing this part with with us. Um, and I really like that how the trajectory kind of, moved into making it more into your, work based of, because personal to professional is also so important. So how did your creative path evolve out of this identity, and what was like the defining moment where you pivoted, where you understood that, okay, this can be, you know, something that I can actually make it industry driven and then also digitally driven?
Well, I remember when I was about 20 years old, I got a job at this shoe wear company. And it was a retailer, but they were also making their own shoes. And I remember the owner asked me if I wanted to try designing some shoes for the company.
Wow.
So I started doing this. I was still in design school, but I started doing that, and it ended up that my shoes were actually became so popular. Young people were stealing them out of the shops. So the owner was thrilled. I mean, he was disappointed, but he was thrilled that people were risk
Exception.
accepting such a huge risk to steal
Mm,
my
yeah.
designs. And
Wow.
so I was really thrilled by that. He was pressuring me to drop out of school to work for
Yeah.
him full time.
Mm,
Although I really wanted that job, I had to like pass on it because I really wanted to finish university. My dad only has a grade six education, so I wanted to graduate for him,
yeah.
uh, and get that degree. So that was super important. And after, was it during or after school, after university? Well, I remember I was designing eyewear, brands like Anne Klein and Laura Ashley. And it wasn't until really, well, after that, I got into apparel. I took my clothes after graduation because I was in Toronto, and I took my clothes, just packed them up in a suitcase, and I went to New York City. I to sell with the idea to sell my clothes. I had no mentor. I knew nobody there, no contacts, no family there. But I went on a bus. It was a very unglamorous form of transport, a packed bus. Didn't know what I was doing. Had no list, and I just started approaching retailers with my suitcase and literally knocking on their doors and showing them my collection. And that was really the pivoting moment that got me into the industry. I just learned hands on so much more doing that than everything I learned in university, because this was all hands on. I was just thrown into the fire of business and learning how business was done, and how to complete those orders. I remember I had this scary moment that will live for me forever, and that was taking all my orders I had, because well, the retailers had asked me, "Are you doing the trade shows in New York City, the international trade shows?" And I said, "No, what's that?" And they said, "Well, that's where all the retailers come from around the world to do their apparel buying." And so I said, "Yeah, I'm going to do those." And I started doing that, and I had all these orders for an amount of money I've never seen before in my life. And I was very, very scared. Like, how on earth am I going to come up with the money to fulfill those orders? And I'll never forget going up into this skyscraper in Toronto of this bank. And keep in mind, I was in my 20s. I was in my mid 20s. I was so scared. I was probably, my legs were like shaking in that lift going up because I was going way up high. All I had was my orders. And I remember thinking, please God, let it not be an old white man I have to deal with. Can it please be a woman of color? And lo and behold, I had this lovely black woman that came to meet me, and I just felt, as soon as I saw her, it was like a wave of relief because I was finally, I don't know how to put it, but I think just because
Relatability, I think that's important.
relatability,
Yeah.
relatability, because if when you're a woman of color, if you're an immigrant, female, in general, we all have different experiences than men, and particularly Caucasian men. We have completely different experiences and different challenges. So she very kindly gave me that opportunity to help me out with my business, and I'm forever grateful. So that was a big turning point. And I don't know if you've read Shoe Dog. This is the story about Nike, but they were always saying to make, to grow in a business, you always have to have that capital, working capital, and
Yeah.
keep going. And you always have to raise things to be able to grow. So that was another like big challenge that I had, was just attaining that capital. I have some like crazy stories that I've had to deal with VCs in the past, that I'd like to think things have changed, but I really think that there's space in the VC space for helping female founders. Right now, there's only about 2% of female founders, particularly in tech, get the financing. And that is unacceptable. I think that why that is, I hate to say it, but I think there is this there's some sort of perception that investors have of women, of just not being competent enough to run a business, when we all know that is completely not true. And the
Exactly.
evidence behind that is that when there are companies that are led by females, we do better in generating that revenue. So the facts are there. So we need to rewire how financing is done for businesses and for startups in general.
And I think one of the things is that I think women are way better at problem solving and critical thinking. And I think these are one of the key skills that you need also to run not only a business, but also to scale a business. And I think women do it really well. And, I hadn't factored this question in, but now that you've brought up a very important time, what are the five main things as a woman founder should one look at while approaching a VC, or or be aware of, what would be the, like a few takeaways in your perception?
Like when you're going to see a VC or you're going to
VC,
pitch.
or what are the things that one needs to be aware of, and what one needs to prep for as well,
Well,
um
yeah, fantastic question. I think the number one thing, well, there are many important things, but most importantly, you have to have a really good pitch deck. And it should be not too wordy. It should be point form. It should not be too long. It shouldn't be too short. There's so many good resources on how a pitch deck can be done. So I think having really good charts, having the data to back your business, it would be great to see what kind of, are you in debt? Are you how do who's investing? Are there investors already? How much equity are they taking? And then you can be prepared for questions, particularly if you're a female, if they to answer questions like, do you have a family? Are you planning on having a family? Even though these questions most likely are not aimed at men, but
yeah.
they could be asking that, and be prepared to ask a question. How are you going to balance having a family with your business? And I would also say, have you what kind of is your product already in stores? Is it in selling online? Where's the proof of product there? Have that all laid out with your questions. I would say also practice your pitching. Go to a lot of pitches and see how that's done. And network. Build a really good network online. LinkedIn is fantastic. Most founders I know in tech, we're on there all the time and we're networking, we're going to conferences, we're taking part of our community, and we are learning, and we are also showcasing our work and showing what we have to educate people what we're doing in the
Yeah.
space. And it's important to be on there every day. If you
Yes.
can be on there every day.
Yeah. And I think that also I feel with women is that, just getting out there is something that a lot of women struggle with. And because this whole idea of what is necessary, how am I going to be perceived in identities? I think it's just one needs to be bold, be practical, because I think being aware of what are the key requirements of building a business are equally are important, and then also being at a stage where you are owning what you're selling or producing. I think these are things, and especially from somebody like you who's already been through this, these are great insights. So from talking about things that you've built and shaped, tell me a little bit about what Aura is. What does it literally or symbolically stand for, and how is it connected to identity, technology, and fashion?
Well, let me just get back to how I actually got into tech and
Okay.
Web3. That's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
During COVID, about 5 years ago, I
Mhm.
was invited to do a Clubhouse talk with a digital fashion brand and a digital accessories platform. And I had a jewelry brand called Railing Icarus, and it was a traditional brand, and I was seen as the traditional retailer, and they were the upcoming hot new upcomers.
Yeah.
And after that talk, I realized, wow, this is something very interesting going on in the space. I want to learn more because I'm always interested in being like ahead of the curve and being one step ahead of things. So when I thought, if I don't learn about this now, I'm going to be left behind. So I went shortly after I went down to Decentral Miami. And if you don't know, Miami is a hub spot
Yeah.
for um, uh, crypto, NFTs. And I went down there, didn't really know what I was getting into, but I just was very honest, and I went up to people in the Web3 space, and I said, I really don't know much about this space, but I'm super interested. Would you like to collaborate with me? And to my surprise, they said yes. So that's how I got into this space, and I was learning about the space. And so we started building digital assets with jewelry, and you can wear these on your conference calls and online. The one thing I loved about it is that it was a great blend of AR that looked very realistic. But I was looking at that, and I got into I learned how it all would work, but then I realized, what else is there in this space? Where is the sweet spot for Web3? Where should I be? And then this is how Aura came about, because I realized gaming for me was a great position to be in. There are almost 3 billion gamers globally. The market is huge for fashion. It's in 2023, it was $50 billion market, and it's projected to reach 105.5 billion by 2030. And players use skins as a form of self-identity and
Yeah.
online expression.
Yeah.
So this it's very important to them. So I that's how Aura came about. I realized I needed to start from scratch and build a fashion brand dedicated just to gaming. So that wasn't something that a lot of people were doing at the time. You would have some teenagers doing it as a pastime or something. But I was building a brand in there, and that was what we did. So we built Aura, and that was a interesting and fun collection to do because I learned so much about how, the nuances in gaming and how the different how design differs in gaming, um, because there's different themes in gaming. Avatars are different sizes in gaming, but when you compare digital fashion to physical fashion, the pros outweigh the cons so much, and that's why I decided to go digital, because of that. For example, there's no returns in digital fashion, whereas in physical fashion there's a 50% return rate. It's a
Yeah.
nightmare. I remember when I was in my 20s, there was a UPS strike across the United States. I had an absolute meltdown because my my textiles were coming all over from the US, from Asia, from Canada, and if I couldn't get my fabric in time, my sales would not be delivered to my buyers, and they had the right to cancel my orders. So, can you imagine?
And
I didn't have.
this is a very relevant point because I see that not only with large scale producers, even small scale producers, given the fact that everything has become digital, trends are changing in terms of wearability also. People want new, they do not want to spend on things that are there in their closet for years. So the cycle rate, and you're right that people, like, I know a lot of fashion designers in India, they don't want to store. So how do you recycle? How do you create that much so you know that your next season you have something new? So there is a lot of backlog, in
Exactly.
yeah,
Inventory. There's
yeah,
no inventory that you have to work with. I mean, when I started out in the 90s, websites, nobody really had websites back then. At least in the early 90s, we that was everything we did. When I was selling my clothes, I was selling around the world within a couple of years' time. But I did that. It was hard because it was done by fax machine, through trade shows and the telephone.
mm,
And it was like, it was, I remember saying to somebody in the 90s, how do you do an attachment? How does that work again? But it's so much freer now when you don't have to worry about the supply chain and everything. The digital is they're downloads. So, and then you would just not have to worry about things getting lost or stolen or damaged. There's no inventory, like we said, to worry about. No kind of fears like that. So this is something super important that I wanted to be a part of. So when I say digital fashion and gaming, there's different words, that terms to be used for this. Is called skins, in-game
yeah.
cosmetics.
Could you also tell what are some of our most of our viewers are probably in Web2, what a skin is?
So skin could be, it could be the fashion that you're wearing. It could be weapons. It could be accessories that people use, like a hammer or something. Um,
Yeah.
Lasers, anything like that,
Mm,
headsets, helmets. These are all part of cosmetics, which is a huge industry, that is really, it's a phenomenon that's going on, because now we're seeing fashion brands getting in the game. So we have all your major luxury brands. Most of them are in gaming.
yeah.
Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Ralph Lauren, whoever you can think, even if beauty brands are in
Yeah.
gaming as well. And that extends beyond fashion, because you're also seeing movies coming into the gaming. Look at the Minecraft movie, with hugely successful. And also you can think of things like anything, like a pen, like pens. Big pens are in gaming now. The reason why our brands are in gaming is because of the marketing strategy. So every brand should have considered gaming as a part of their marketing strategy. And the reason for that is because of the young demographic in gaming. So they want to build they want to build their brand awareness in gaming. So if you think of like Balenciaga in gaming. My son, when he was a child, knew about Balenciaga to my surprise, and I said, "How did you know about that?" And he looked at me and like I didn't know what I was talking. He was like, "Through gaming," and so this is how they build their audience, the new generation of consumers in gaming.
Um, Given the fact that gaming is also very user centric, you know, and the data that's also generated, it's by users. What kind of data would you like to see being generated by, by, let's say, the users of Aura, which would help you, let's say, scale or better, what you're building?
Well, in Roblox, for example, they have really excellent data that you can go in and you can see how your sales are and you can see
Okay.
what's doing well. You can also go into the marketplace and leverage all the information that's on there so you can see what's best selling. So, for example, if you're a brand and you're building a collection and you want to see, well, what is going to sell here? You can look at the best sellers and you can see the recently sold items, and then you can look at the older items and you can go take a look at see what people are favoriting. So these are the items that maybe people can't afford or looking to purchase in the future, and see what is trending on there. So those are all really good telltale signs. You can also take a look at Game Changing Style. So I co-founded Game Changing Style with Fia Dahlia, who used to be my intern, actually. I found her through the Wall Street Journal. She was a mentor at Parsons' first ever collaboration with Roblox. And I reached out to her and we started GCS, which is the first of its kind news source covering the state of fashion across the gaming domain. So this is not just Roblox and Fortnite. This is across all the games out there and all demographics, all different countries. And it's through Game Changing Style. So we publish a lot of reports, forecasts, and information on what's going on for fashion in gaming because there's a lot of brands getting in there. A
This
lot
for
of
users, or this would be for service providers? Who would this, who is it aimed at?
it's aimed at it's aimed at businesses. It's aimed at, so this would be, we have a lot of professionals from luxury brands following us, C-level, C-level level leaders. We also have digital fashion designers from a lot of fashion brands that are following us as well. And we have gamers and enthusiasts and people that are interested in getting into this space. I do a lot of talks on fashion and gaming, and there's always a queue after my talk of people wanting to find out more. How can they get involved in this? So yeah, I'm happy to speak to anybody that wants to reach out. Any of your listeners, always happy to tell them more, give them more insight in this space. And it was through Game Changing Style that we realized there needs to be some recognition of outstanding skins in the space, because there's so many skins that deserve some sort of recognition for what they're doing, that's something special or innovative about them. So Fia and I came up with the Fashion and Gaming Awards, which is a first of its kind award show recognizing outstanding achievements for skins. And we're creating this show, which is going to be in New York City next year, and it's going to be held at Comic Con.
Oh, lovely.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Because I think that, the what I feel is that you're building an ecosystem which represents identity. And I think a lot of it is also decision making, because like what you're going to wear, how you're going to, and why. So I think there is a whole connectivity that you see in this frame of thought, which is not only enabling the user, but the service provider, the larger ecosystem. And there is, I would say, also celebration, which is fantastic because, there are, that we do have a few uh, uh, rebels who are into digital fashion and who are either probably starting out or well established. And I think from one of them, the conversation that I had, she said that not everybody has the ability to be recognized, because the thing is that there are so many people creating digital wear now, we think that, it's a small industry, but in its way, it's really booming. But, how do you, again, reach a larger community? And like you said, the fact that, the kind of work that Web3 is, it transcends beyond, it's not in a certain one city or one place or one economy, it goes beyond many more. And I think one of the most well accepted or well communicated use cases is fashion and gaming, which can be used for, let's say, commercial purposes, entertainment purposes, education, anything.
Well, I'm really glad that you brought up the part about everybody needs to be recognize that with they
Yeah.
need that opportunity. And I would just like to mention I'm the co-founder of Fashion Entertainment Television Hub, and that is the first English speaking fashion entertainment television channel for emerging markets. And what we are doing, we're a startup, but we've already got about 140 excuse me, 143 million viewers so far in Africa. And this season, we the UNHCR, which is the refugee arm of the United Nations, and they're one of our sponsors. And they are actually sending us some refugees to be a part of our program. So the show that we are doing is called Inferno Runway, and this is a fashion uh, design challenge show. It's a reality show, and the winner goes to New York City. And it's a great show because we are highlighting the challenges that the people, it takes place in Lagos, Nigeria, and we are highlighting the challenges that people have from all different walks of life. And what we are doing is we're showcasing their backstory. And we're really honored to be to be working with the UNHCR because this highlights that people, it gives people a face to particularly refugees. They're not just faceless people with no identities. These are people with dreams and a drive that want to do something, that don't want to be stuck in a camp. We are all born with a talent. We just need the opportunity to let that talent shine.
Completely. And that's also one of the things that we celebrate at Role Model Rebels, that, we would like our members to be from any part of the world, to have that story of their professional journey that we can translate. And I think, that's why I feel quite strongly with the kind of work that you do, but there are a lot of similarities of, let's say, ownership, identity, celebration, in that sense.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so that's
Mm.
something that we're actually my co-founder is there right now. We are excited to we just have we've been notified that Showmax is now carrying us. So that Showmax is the Netflix of Africa. And it's nice to be alongside of other shows like The White Lotus. And it's a really, it's such an honor. And I'm excited to be a part of this space because I see myself when I see particularly young girls or minorities or women of color, I see myself in them and I remember all those things, all the obstacles that we've been through and the different experiences that we have. And I've always told people that I mentor because I have young girls that I'm mentoring, and I always tell them any kind of setback you have, let that be fuel to your fire to work harder and show people that you're going to do this and you're going to work even harder now when things don't work out, or failure should be something that we should be in a strange way embracing, because it builds character and it helps us be stronger. It's like a callus that
Yeah.
makes that heals, and it makes you stronger. So push forward. Every single person that is successful has all had some sort of challenges in their life. And there is no doubt that is what makes us different, is overcoming those challenges, and it makes us want to work harder and do better.
Yeah. And exactly, like I feel I've learned way more from my failures and successes because, exactly, it helps you push boundaries and, and it builds that sense of leadership of who you are, and especially I feel during times like, let's say, the pandemic or even, let's say, a war, you really see those things coming out, when you're faced with that adversity, that how do you keep pushing yourself to progress, and that comes to a more personal question. What drives you from you know cr- to push these boundaries, creating, finding leadership, keeping this innovation going, that you have this fuel for fire?
I think it's refusing to let barriers define your journey. So entrepreneurship should be about merging purpose and profit by building ventures that reflect values and champion inclusivity and push boundaries in industry that hasn't always welcomed particularly females at the table. Um, I think that for every creator and change maker who's ever felt out of place, your difference is your superpower. Um, and as I said before, the most meaningful innovations and movements have always been from people who have seen things differently, challenged the status quo, and who have imagined something better. So keep that in mind, and remember, if you don't fit in, you're not alone. Many of us have felt that way, and it's often a sign that you're on the edge of something new and important. So embrace your unique perspective and use it, as I said, to fuel your creativity and your passion to make change. And I hope my work is a way to remind people that there's no single way to be an entrepreneur. The goal has always been to offer tools and stories and frameworks that help you trust your own voice and vision. So if my work can help somebody feel seen or give someone the courage to help them get things going, keep going when things get tough, then I'll know that it's made a difference. I hope it makes sense. But keep building and keep questioning and keep connecting with others who value your authenticity. The world needs your ideas, and the world needs your courage to be yourself.
I think that's really well put and well said, because I think there are a lot of young girls whose aspirations, might not see success for many reasons, limitations, opportunities. But, your story has been so powerful to say that, you can go beyond from who you were as that young girl to who you are today. So thank you, Tracy, for sharing this amazing story with us. How do people get in touch with you?
They can go to my website, which is at tracygreenan.com. So TracyGreen is in the color, and then A, and then N is in nomad.com.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for for being a part of this conversation today.